Muy buenas tardes, buenas noches a nuestra audiencia en Latinoamérica. Hoy es el miércoles 9 de julio del año 2025 y tenemos la sesión de Go to Market at Scale con dos mentores de clase mundial que vamos a presentar más adelante. Good evening, everyone. Tonight is Wednesday, July the 9th, 2025, and we have the Columbia Spring 2025 session for Go-to-Market and Scale with two world-class mentors that have just arrived to our session. So we are going to introduce them in a little while. En este momento, pues voy a presentar la agenda. Voy a compartir pantalla y creo que ahí ya están viendo mi pantalla, ¿correcto? Okay, so welcome everyone. This is the Founder Institute Columbia Plus Spring 2025 Go-to-Market and Scale session. It's July the 9th, 2025. Vamos entonces a hablar de la agenda que tenemos para esta tarde. El primer punto son los reportes de un minuto de los presidentes de los grupos de trabajo. En el segundo punto, las presentaciones de nuestros mentores de esta noche. En el tercer punto, 5 hot seats que van a presentar su pitch en inglés de 3 minutos. Posteriormente, las presentaciones de nuestros mentores y finalmente las sesiones de preguntas y respuestas. The agenda for tonight's meeting session, we start with the 1-minute report from the presidents of the working groups. Afterwards, the mentor introductions, a minute for personal introductions from our mentors. Point number 3 are the random hot seats, 5 random 3-minute pitches. And the main event are the keynote speeches from our mentors tonight, 20-minute speeches from them, and followed by the Q&A session from our speakers. Our mentors for tonight, nuestros mentores para la sesión de esta tarde son Trevor Longino y Chris Foltz. Our mentors for tonight are Trevor Longino and Chris Foltz, very skilled and talented people. And I'm pretty sure that we are going to be delighted with their speeches tonight. Vamos a estar ciertamente deleitados con todo lo que vamos a aprender y lo que vamos a compartir con nuestros mentores esta noche. Entonces, vamos a comenzar con los reportes de un minuto de los presidentes de los grupos de trabajo. ¿Algún presidente que voluntariamente quiera tomar la palabra?
Mary, ¿te parece hablar esta vez primera? Porque la vez pasada te corté de manera muy...
Sí,
¿Quieres hablar? Sí, habla tú.
gracias, Ksenia. Estoy desde el teléfono, pero ya me voy a conectar de la computadora que se puso a reiniciar la cosa. Pues esta semana estuvimos pues avanzando bastante con lo de siempre la incorporación, porque habían unos que querían constituirse en Estados Unidos, otros en Colombia o en Latinoamérica, y encontramos una traba para los de Estados Unidos, que era el business address. Entonces, estuvimos haciendo mucha investigación y encontramos que hay otros canales que también funcionan para que nosotros podamos comprar el business address que funciona para abrir la cuenta de banco, y esto viene en recomendación de los de Every. Entonces ahí vamos avanzando lento, pero vamos avanzando para terminar la constitución por lo menos de la mayoría de las empresas a tiempo.
Ok, Mary. Excelente reporte, muchas gracias. ¿Alguien más que quiera continuar con reportes de un minuto?
Bueno, en nuestro grupo, que sigue siendo el más grande, somos 6 personas, esta vez hablábamos más casi del alma. Estábamos más de cómo estábamos realmente, dimos espacio a cada uno para hablar de sus necesidades, nos quejamos bastante, realmente ventilamos. Eso es lo que uno tal vez necesite ya a esta altura del programa. Dijimos que no alcanza a comer, a quien le salta el ojo, bueno, todo esto, y nos entendimos y nos escuchamos, realmente lo pasamos súper bien. Y además, claro, hablamos sobre los temas más accionables, como por ejemplo qué hacer con los abogados, cuál puede ser la estrategia para la incorporación, las dificultades provocadas por diferencias de jurisdicción entre los países. Entonces realmente tuvimos una muy buena sesión que duró casi 3 horas. O sea, realmente lo aprovechamos harto y seguimos siendo un grupo súper unido.
Muy bien, Ksenia, muchas gracias. Creo que había, digamos, un asunto con Yesmik y tu compañera de grupo, ¿no?
Sí, la
Eh,
verdad es que, buenas noches. La verdad es que no he estado en grupos desde que se disolvió el primero mío, le he escrito muchísimo, creo que no está aquí actualmente la que es mi presidenta, pero no sé, le he escrito por email por todos lados y la verdad es que no tengo grupo, nunca he estado en grupo aparte de que se disolvió temprano.
ok, perfecto. Entonces, eh, bueno, vamos a esperar que se conecte Vanessa, creo, y trataremos de solventarlo. Si no, entonces vamos a hacer a incorporarte en otro grupo, sí, seguramente, porque, bueno, esto está también parte, digamos, de la gestión que en la vida diaria un negocio tiene que, de alguna forma, desarrollar, ¿no? Entonces,
Ujú.
bueno, queríamos básicamente tener allí ese tipo de retos en torno a, pues, gestionar un grupo de trabajo, etcétera. Así que bueno, no hay problema, pero hay un gran aprendizaje aquí, Jasmine. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias a usted.
Ok, ¿alguien más que quiera hablar en este momento sobre su grupo de trabajo?
Yo podría hablar.
Adelante, Juan. Sí, adelante.
Bueno, mi grupo está constituido por una sola persona, que es Mauricio, pero no hubo mucha interacción en esta semana. Federico ya se dio de baja, así que yo diría que si se puede reorganizar el grupo para poder interactuar con otros partners míos, porque, bueno, discutir conmigo mismo es un poco aburrido.
Muy bien, claro
Nada
que
más.
sí, Juan. Y esperamos que, bueno, tu salud obviamente mejore y obviamente nuestras oraciones porque así sea para todos nuestros founders. Muchas gracias entonces, Juan y Mary, Ksenia, Yasmik. Vamos a continuar con el punto 2. We are going to continue now with our second point for our agenda tonight. Vamos a escuchar las presentaciones brevemente de un minutito de nuestros mentores. We are going to listen to the 1 minute introductions from our mentors tonight before getting started with the hot seats. So it's a pleasure to introduce tonight Chris Foltz and Trevor Longino. So let's listen to their 1 minute personal introductions. Chris, go ahead, please.
Not a problem at all. So happy to be here. My name is Chris Foltz. I'm one of the global entrepreneurs in residence for Founder Institute, which means I get the opportunity to work all over the world, pretty much every continent that Founder Institute has a presence. My day job is I'm managing director of Responsible.com. We're a global strategic advisory firm that we we tell everyone that we spend all of our time working with startups, but we work on a lot of interesting projects that have to do with government and saving human lives. I also recently became the co-founder of a nonprofit artificial intelligence lab, which has really done a lot in the U.S. in terms of the new laws that are coming into place. We were very instrumental in Utah, which is the first state in America, first in the world, to set laws the way that they did for artificial intelligence. I spent most of my life working in politics. You'll hear my crazy story tonight. And I look forward to helping all of you, specifically with go-to-market. I'm so honored to be here with Guillermo and Trevor, who's one of my favorite mentors to work with. So hopefully we can be of value. Look forward to meeting everyone in hot seats.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Chris. Sorry. We are really honored and very happy to have you joining this session tonight. So let's continue with Trevor Longino. Trevor, good evening. How are you doing today? Where are you connecting from?
I'm connecting from Montreal today. I think last time I was traveling out and about. I have been here before. I was at the, I think, the introductory kind of session. You heard how bad my Spanish is. I'll just do English today. I'm Trevor. I own and run Crowd Tamers. We're a go-to-market agency for startups. We work B2B. We've helped 224 startups now build $1 million marketing engine. I've helped 15, 16, 18 different startups make more than 3 million a year, some more than 15 million a year. And kind of where I work and what I focus on every day is the 0 to 1 problem. I'm super happy to be here talking with you again. One of my absolute most crucial employees in my company is in Colombia, in Bogota. She's from there. And I love also getting to do the GTM and scale with Chris because he's a phenomenal storyteller and brings such a different take on how to do go-to-market that I think you get a really well-rounded view from our two different minds on great ways to solve this problem. So we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. I'm looking forward to doing this with you.
We sure will. Thank you very much, Trevor. And welcome to our session tonight. Vamos a continuar ahora con el punto siguiente, el punto 3, que son los hot seats de 3 minutos en inglés. Tuvimos la ocasión de practicar con algunos de los founders de cara a tener el feedback de estos mentores que tenemos esta noche. Como pueden ver, es una gran oportunidad para pues todos nosotros founders aquí en Colombia, en Latinoamérica, quiero decir, para recibir mentoría de estos mentores, pues que tienen una visión bien amplia y que nos van a dar su consejo y bueno, todo ese feedback y la calificación. Entonces, I'm going to ask our mentors, please, to enter fi.co/hotseats and look up for Colombia Spring 2025, which is our cohort. And we are going to choose the founders that are going to pitch the 3-minute pitches, make their
Para
presentations.
inglés, yes.
Excuse me?
Para inglés, yes.
Yes, in English, yes. Sí, señor. Bueno,
You were
entonces,
bragging about how well you spoke Spanish, Trevor. And so I was expecting you to listen in Spanish today, too.
I did last time. And let me tell you what, I gave feedback in Spanish and they were all like, don't. So
I was looking forward to the feedback part, but yes.
Ok, entonces, para esta noche, ¿quién salta al agua primero? ¿Quién quiere ser el voluntario que rompa el hielo?
I'm usually the volunteer, so I think that I will be that person if you allow me to be that person.
Yes. Ok, Carlos, entonces vamos. Carlos, número 1. ¿Quién sigue a Carlos? Oscar, ok. ¿Quién sigue a Oscar? Mary, oh my God. ¿Quién va en el cuarto bate? Mauricio, oh, Mauricio es el cuarto bate. Qué bien. Y quinto,
Bueno, yo.
Sven, ok. Okay, so we have already chosen the 5 founders that are going to pitch in English tonight. We got Carlos Acosta, Oscar Abuchaibe, Mary Martínez, Mauricio Zuluaga, y Sven Seidler. So we are going to begin with Carlos Acosta. So I'm asking our mentors, please, to look up his name, Carlos Acosta, in the roster. Carlos, now you are sharing your screen, and in a moment, it should appear. There you go. Carlos, so are you ready to get started with your 3-minute pitch? Carlos,
you're muted, brother.
Carlos, estás en mute. Aló.
Did you hear me right now?
Yes.
Yep.
So you ready, right?
Give me a second.
Okay.
I have a problem with my connection. Yeah, I think I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Yes. So you are good to go in 3, 2, 1, go.
According to the UN, the garbage container used each year circle the equator 25 times. These generate gases that are inhaled by 99% of the world and reach our food and water through rainfall. According to the WHO, 7.6 million people died each year due to waste pollution, including 700,000 children. We need change now. The problem is the high level of extraction of virgin resources that could be saved through recycling. But the process and the circular transition are complex, making them unavailable in many cases for companies, exposing them to multi-million-dollar fines. This is how Revera was born, a desktop software that seeks to help 1% of the world's companies manage the shift towards a circular economy. How does it work? It connects to inventory software to calculate waste generated in real time, allowing them to manage compliance and impact by creating recycling incentives for their collaborators and customers. Our business model is software as a service, B2B subscription, based on how many tons of waste is managed by the producer. Our gross margin is 86% with an average ticket of $996. The global waste management market is valued at $361 billion, while in the first year, we aim to help 150 companies in Chile, representing a $1.1 million market. Revera is more than just a compliance software. Rather, we transform the circular transition into a manageable, controllable, and simple process. To go to market, we seek to validate our client with the goal of developing a customized pilot and generating traction, and eventually expanding into retail in Chile and the United States. I'm Carlos Acosta, commercial engineer, master in entrepreneurship and innovation. I believe we have already taken everything we need from nature. Now it's time to recycle, rethink, and revalue. I'm seeking $50,000 for validation, pilot development, and marketing strategies with the goal of serving the first 50 clients. Let's give life to the world's waste. Revera, manage, comply, and create impact. Thank you so much.
Very good. Well, congrats. Right on time. Thank you, Carlos. Congrats again. So we are going to listen to our mentors' feedback and grading. They are going to grade your presentation. They're going to score from 1 to 5. Their score goes between 1 and 5. There is no 3. So let's listen to our mentors' feedback. Let's get started with 1 minute feedback from Chris. Chris, your feedback and grading for this speech.
I like this. I do. And I'm going to, one of my case studies tonight, I'm going to talk about some circular economy stuff. One of the challenges that you have in this, though, is I don't think you made a strong enough case economically why it matters, right? So we know about chemicals, we know about the waste, we know about the environmental problems here. But you see, in the US, which is one of your target markets, we don't have things like carbon credits. We don't actually have the same checks and balances, even though most people think that we do. So the average company that you're going to be targeting doesn't realize how much money they're losing, because they're not paying for how much goes to the landfill. They're paying for their regular dumpster collection, a flat fee. So whether they put and throw away everything in there or not, it doesn't change the unit economics for them. Where it does change, though, is for the people that are actually bringing the waste to the actual landfills or to the recycling centers. They're getting charged by the ton for this, right? So in foreign markets like Europe and everything, there's a lot more of the specific charging based on the waste where it's calculated. So you need to make a stronger story as to how this economically actually impacts the company, because a lot of people aren't going to think about waste as an expense. They're going to think of it as a loss oftentimes, but they're not going to think of it as an expense. The moment they do is the moment that your entire dynamic shifts. I love what you're doing. I think the presentation looks good. I think it presented well, even though English isn't your first language. I'm going to give you a 4. I'd like to help with this project as much as I can because I have a lot of experience in this space, but we have to fix that storytelling element.
Thank you so much. So I don't know if I could answer about like the unit economics and why I want to expand to states.
That's
Well,
up to Guillermo.
Yeah, well, maybe very quickly, 30 seconds, stop. Okay, go ahead.
Well, here in Chile, we have the APR law that started like 2 years ago. So right now in state, it's starting and it's approved in 6 states. I think that Colorado, California, and other states. I'm not sure the names of the states. So on my hypothesis, when I will be ready to move to a state when the law start there. So that is my hypothesis. So
that's a brilliant idea. Yep. And again, not to cut you off, but just to spare the time, that was going to be one of my questions to you was when you align this with compulsory action, plastic recycling laws and stuff like that are just now starting to take effect in the US. As you draw attention to, you want to get early in with some of the think tanks, some of the researchers, the same way that I got in with the state of Utah with my AI lab early on. So I'd love to talk about this in office hours to learn more specifically about that play. I am familiar with those laws, though. Good work.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Let's go now to Trevor, your feedback and the grading for this speech.
Sure. I'm a bit torn on this because I think in terms of the quality of the presentation, I thought it was very good. In terms of the business, I don't think the presentation addressed that well. Chris already identified my wife is CEO of a sustainability nonprofit, and in both the US and in Europe, the way she makes inroads is not by talking about circularity and efficiency and any of these things, but talking about cost reduction. By saying, if you save this money, you can put it towards the actual thing you want to spend the money on. And throughout your entire presentation, you talked about addressable market and what you would charge, but you didn't talk about what you would actually, the benefit that your clients would get. And the first rule of selling is if you want to sell to me, don't tell me about you, tell me about me. Now, you're not trying to sell me as a client right now, but I need to believe you know that client, and it doesn't sound like you do. So graphics, visuals, polish, language, cadence, all of that, I would happily give a 4, but we're looking at, are you ready for go-to-market? Are you ready for scale? And I don't think what you said demonstrate that readiness. I want to give you a 2.
All right. Thank you, Trevor. Well, beautiful. And all this feedback is valid not only for Carlos, but for everyone, okay? So let's
Thank you so much, Trevor.
Thank you. Let's pay close attention to all these comments from our mentors tonight. Vamos a continuar ahora con Oscar Abuchaibe. Oscar, I'm asking our mentors please to look up Oscar Abuchaibe in the roster. All right, thank you. Oscar, where are you connecting from?
I am in Rancho Cordova, California.
Okay, welcome. You are going to pitch to make a 3-minute presentation. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Master Abuchaibe, the founder of Trulivers, the AI vocational guidance solution to help over 11 million undeserved youth students from public schools in Latin America and the US each year that have lack of vocational guidance, lack of awareness, educational opportunities, and economic barriers. To help them to find the right educational programs and access to financial options and scholarships, although in a single hub. We have already impacted more than 1,700 youth students from public schools in Barranquilla, Colombia, in alliance with the City Hall of Barranquilla, the Foundation Bodnar from Switzerland, and the Ministry of Science, generating grants in the first year of implementation more than $3,005. We have a huge market opportunity. If we only focus in the 0.5% of this market, we're talking about more than 50,000 youth students each year, with a potential income each year that more than $1.3 million in the B2C model, that is sell a test for $4.99, self-assistant test, or $49.99 self-assistant test plus human support, psychology support. What makes us different? We are not only a test, we are a human, real human support, a guidance in each step of the process to enroll the students. We are really connecting to the real opportunities in the real market. We are here in the Founder Institute to seeking our $300,000 to improve our technology, mainly to go to the market with digital campaign to reach the 50,000 students, to involve them in the enrollments with education scholarship. We wanna be the first hub for undeserved youth students in Latin America and the US, connected them with the next generation of opportunities. Our team are involved with expert in psychometry and psychologists, expert in fintechs, and expert in edtech development and apps. And me as an CEO, I have over 10 years, a decade, working with universities in research and development. Join us to make Trulivers for the next generation of youth students a universe of opportunities. Thank you so much.
All right on time. Thank you, Oscar. Congrats. So let's listen to our mentor's feedback and grading of your pitch. Let's get started with Trevor. Trevor, go ahead, please.
My first note here is just, Jesus, you are going through your slides too fast. So, like, if you've got a 3-minute pitch, don't have, I think that was 20 slides. Like, ease up a bit, because I kept looking at a slide and be like, oh, I wonder what it's, shit, it changed. So that's the, like, presentation-wise, some feedback there. I do not like ever when someone says, if we just have half of 1% of the market, we'll be rich, because you won't. Right? What you're saying is, if only I could boil the ocean, I could take a bath. And the answer is, you cannot boil the ocean. I need you to say, when we completely crush all the competition in this tiny niche, we'll be worth $5 million ARR then. Because that tells me you know who you sell to. So the presentation itself, I think, needs some polish and some work. You didn't go into it, and I mean, time is tight. You had 3 minutes. Most people, when they're like, we have AI enabled something, what they mean is, we've included OpenAI's API in our product. And if you've done something better than that, I would definitely suggest you talk about how we're not just using OpenAI's API, we've built something. If you have only done an OpenAI integration into your product, is that the core value for it, is something I think you have to answer, because there's no moat to just having an OpenAI endpoint that you've included in. The fact that you've got traction, however, indicates that even if you didn't in this presentation successfully convey who your narrow market is, it clearly sounds like you're starting to grab an audience in your narrow market. This is, again, another one where I'm waffling just at 2 or 4. My opinions matter less than the data. If you're getting traction and if you've got a couple thousand users already, clearly something's working here and you're starting to get ready for go-to-market. So I'm going to give this one a 4.
Thank you, Trevor. Now let's go to Chris.
Okay, so if this was in Silicon Valley, they would give you a 2. And it's only on the merit that they would question, probably that you're missing some elements of the story. So I work a lot with higher education, but I have STEM programs in schools in America and the K through 8 grades. And it's very hard to enter these schools with programs, no matter how good it is, right? So you need to explain to people your pathway in the door to the U.S. school system. For instance, I went after parochial school, Catholic schools, right? Because they make their own decisions. I've had programs in charter schools, which are public schools that make their own decisions. Then there are magnet schools. Then there are schools that specifically have a lot of immigrants, for instance, in the U.S. I love the demographic that you're working with, but I need to know how you're going to get these schools to say yes to your program. Secondarily, there's a lot of programs in America that deal with vocations. Now, the definition of vocation has changed a lot in America over the years. It used to be heating, ventilation, air conditioning, plumbing, stuff like that. I'm a judge for something called DECA. DECA is a very large program. I'll put the link in the chat. And what they do is they help prepare students for vocations, but how they define vocations, that could be marketing, it could be working in AI. It's not just the traditional blue collar work. And what they're really focused in are underrepresented populations. When I judged this year, I was shocked to see how many young Latinos and Latinas, all the different demographics in there, because historically these things, there was one school where only one girl represented the school, and it was a school that was in a traditionally Latino neighborhood, right? So I love seeing that, but to partner up with DECA or to partner up with somebody that's already in these schools is what you are going to need to do. Now, that's not going to be hard to do because a lot of those people that are already in there don't have something real. So I'm going to have to sit with you in office hours to see what you have that's real. I'm not saying you don't have real stuff. I need to know what differentiates you. And it might be the demographic that you're serving. And to Trevor's point, when you said that whole 0.5% stuff, percentages of percentages, doesn't matter how big or small or how impressive it is, not going to work. Because what you need to prove to me is that you know in that example what the right 0.5% is to go after. Because that's what the investor wants to know. What are you just going to randomly, like Oprah, hand out money to everybody until you accumulate 0.5%? No, you're doing it with a strategy. That strategy is part of your go-to-market strategy. And that's what you're kind of missing in identifying here. Your pathway will become clear once we figure out who you're partnering with to get into the schools. You know what I'm saying? I'll help you with this. And for all that, I'm going to give you a 4, right? Because I like what you're doing, because I think I can help you, but without fixing this thing, you're not investable. Okay. And it doesn't matter how good it is. How investors determine investability is growth, right? So it's like if you had $1 million right now, and next year you were planning on making $1.1 million, that would be far less impressive than if you had $50 now and you're making $300 next year. So we have to tell the right story, and it's with your numbers. Sorry I went longer, but it's important to fix these things.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. Okay, Mary Martinez, how are you doing tonight? Mary, can you hear me? Well, I think Mary left. So let's oh, no, sorry, Mary, can you hear me? But I can hear you. I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Bueno,
Sorry.
vamos a seguir contigo. Okay, so I'm asking our mentors please to look up for Mary Martinez in the roster. Are you going to share your screen, Mary?
Yeah.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Okay.
Nada todavía.
No.
No.
Vamos a ver.
Ahora sí. There you go.
Yeah.
Yes. But okay, now you are ready. So Mary, you are going to make your business presentation, your pitch, your 3-minute pitch in 3, 2, 1, go.
Hi, my name is Mary. And 1 year ago, Joe, a CEO from a startup from Texas, reached out to me, desperate. He spent 3 months trying to hire a senior full stack engineer with AI and ML experience. Nothing was working for him. Not agencies, not job boards, not referrals. In less than 48 hours, we sent them 3 pre-vetted candidates from Latin America. All spoke fluent English and all were ready for interviews. In 48 hours, we solved a problem that it took over 3 months for him to be part of. Why? Because nowadays, startups have an issue to fill positions. The hiring process is broken. 77% of startups can't fill key roles due to lack of budget, speed, or hiring expertise. In this case, also 86% of the candidates have a huge drop rate because of broken user experience, ghosting from recruitment agencies, and friction-heavy hiring flows. This came because of the post-COVID shift and startup. It made cost-conscientious more in the process of hiring. Also, we are creating now Jobber. We have a solution for this. We don't just use job boards. We use data, curations, and real operational efficiency. I'm Mary Martinez, a recruitment expert and a proud CEO of my own recruitment agency with over 1 million in revenue and 98.7 hiring success rate. Today, we have a curated base of 12,000 pre-qualified professionals in Latin America, ready to get hired. So that gave me an idea. Launched a new marketplace. So basically, all of my 12,000 pre-qualified candidates are in Jobber now. This is why we are creating a swipe to match mobile marketplace powered by AI that takes everything we already do well and turns into a scalable product. This isn't just an idea. It is a natural evolution of a proven and profitable process I already have. We already have interviewed 12 active clients, and every single one confirmed that they're gonna use Jobber in their next remote team member. So what is important about Jobbers? We don't just post jobs, you match, you get the swiping as you want, when you want it, and with the people that you want. You don't hire in days, not even months. You hire in days or minutes or weeks. It is up to you. You control the process. Why us? Basically, Jobber, it is the best of both worlds. We have a high retention. We also have a rapid execution. Our market size is amazingly huge. So basically, we're trying to address what it is our $28.2 billion in North America about remote workplace services.
Time up.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Very quickly, what is your ask? Okay.
Well, my ask basically is a technical co-founder that can lead the development of our MVP. It will be valued in 175 or an investment just for us to get that part done. And we have a no-code prototype now, but definitely we can improve it through
All
a
right.
part.
Okay, well, thank you, Mary. Congrats. Well, let's listen to our mentors' feedback and grading for your pitch. Let's get started with Chris.
All right. I hate that I'm going to have to give you a 2, and I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
I love what you're doing. The presentation's great. The pacing of it's off. You're spending too long on certain slides, which then allows people's brains to think about, and in this case, all the companies I advise that are doing this. And the challenge that you have is I don't understand what you're doing that's different, with the exception of swiping. Okay. Because you spend so much time describing swiping, which means that the speed, what it sounds like to me, the speed of why people are getting hired more is based on the fact that it's quicker to flick your finger than it would be to click some buttons. Now, you also said some things like you've got 12,000 people in here. I heard some percentages of success. The problem is you're throwing out all these numbers. I don't see anything on here that kind of represents that, but I can do some quick calculations. So that means if you have 12,000 people on platform, you've got to have some outcomes for those 12,000 people, right? So if that's the case, I need to see them in here, right, in your slides, because it's somewhat lacking in that way. And then on top of it, when it comes down to things like AI shortlist, all these types of things, these aren't necessarily differentiators. They're like buzz sentences in there. And for instance, I've got and you mentioned things like your fine print is where the things that matter are. So like in the bottom left on that one slide where you basically were showing your UX, you were talking about things like what they care about, their values, their cultures, and all this, right? That's important stuff. Those are the things that are inherently human and not replaceable by artificial intelligence, right? So I work with this one company I advise called Employable. They just signed a deal with NVIDIA. And what they have is they're looking for transferable skills in humans, right? So that means like, what you may learn in one job may not be the same job title or even the same role, but the transferable skills matter. So their whole thing is they're pushing the transferable skills as their main market thing. It's called Employable, E-N. It's like Employable spelled wrong with an N, and you can look it up. But regardless of the situation, I don't see that secret sauce from you. I know you got it. Otherwise, your deck wouldn't look good. It's just not in your presentation, Mary, right? So it's one of those things. I got to give you a 2 now, but you're the one that can jump to a 5, right? If we tell the story right, and we just need to tell the story right. I'm confident it's in you. I will help you get there. All right, but I have a bunch of questions, so we'll do office
I
hours.
have improved. Everybody knows.
Oh, there's no doubt. I guarantee you. Like literally, I loved almost every word that you said. But what, so what it was is I love your slides. I love all the words. You have every piece of the puzzle. But what I'm missing entirely is the box that shows me what the puzzle looks like put together. So you know how long it's going to take to put together a puzzle if you don't know what it is? That's what we're dealing with here. So that's an easy solution. And it's going to make dramatic impact in your brand, right? I promise you that. Okay. Happy to meet with you about it.
Almost.
You're going to be there. It's not even a matter of almost or anything. You're in the process of getting there, right? And I caught you in the middle of it, but I'm going to help you get where you're going. It's hard to tell where you're going if you don't know where you're at today. I'm here to tell you where you're at today. All right.
Thank you, Chris.
I got you, girl. Don't worry.
All right, Chris. We love you, Chris. So
I love what I listen to. This is what inspires me, right? So people often ask me what motivates me. Motivation is hard, but inspiration comes from people like you. All right. So that's
absolutely. Thank you very much. Okay, let's listen to Trevor's feedback and grading for Mary's speech.
You guys have, like, collectively some of the most polished presentations, and the 3 of you guys, right? All of you had great looking slides, great dynamism in your presentations for this stage and in not your primary language. That's really impressive. You should all feel accomplished that you are like doing this well at this stage. Validate track. Is this an idea that's worth even building out further? Super impressive. Love the slide design. Love how it's all set out. I can tell that you've got good talent at your hands, Mary, that you had some designer go through this. Like Chris, I think there's a couple of big pieces missing in what you talked about. I know that there's companies like Support Shepherd, like Ampush, like GetSagan that are exactly this business model. None of them are in your competitions deck. And when I see a competition deck where I don't see your actual competition there, my concern is either you don't know, which is bad, or you hope I don't know, which is worse, because now you're lying and hoping I'm too dumb to catch it, right? And one or the other, I'm not trying to say which it is right now, but you need to confront head on. Look, GetSagan is there. I ran the math real quick on the numbers in the corner of your slide. It looks like, unless I misunderstood your math, you're saying 100 clients makes you 1.7 million ARR, which means about $1,400 a month for these clients. I don't know how you're getting there. And some of the unit economics of how your business goes, unless I've somehow misplaced a zero, of how your business goes, I think maybe a little more explanation is needed, because either you're saying we employ them and then we do a pass through and we take a chunk of the revenue, okay, or you're saying, hey, we're going to, have the employee work for you, we'll be EOR or something, and we'll charge you for this. I don't know what, right? But something about how the business goes is not clear to me. So I think, just like Chris is saying, really dynamic presentation style, really great looking visuals. I can tell you have put thought in, you are nearly there. I would very much want to see that how you're different and better than your actual competition in some way, and how your business is actually making money. And then focusing less on the app itself, because the app is not the best part of what you built. The people are the best part. And making that kind of the forefront of the story, I think, will make a difference.
I appreciate Trevor. I wasn't ready, but I wanted to do this in front of you guys because I've been expecting this session for so long. And yes, but it's been a journey, and I think that I'm getting there. And obviously it's a learning process, and I appreciate you guys, honestly.
I just put a link in the chat to Remotify. This is an FI graduate out of they're in our portfolio. And I also put in here the link. I just interviewed her for an FI global event. Maria Suckgang is her name. And she really tells the best story I've ever heard in this space. She answers all the questions, right? Like, I'm here interviewing her, and like, she's basically giving a TED talk, right? So listen to how she describes the problem, because she's basically drawn attention to how, listen, I've got these 12,000 people in the Philippines, and here's how we're solving the problem. It's a similar story, but honestly, your stuff looks better, right? So it's just a storytelling thing. So watch the interview with her so you can kind of get an understanding of how she describes it with the questions I ask, and then kind of look in her brand, and then I'll meet with you on this, right? We're going to get there.
Thank you. And I designed it, actually.
Well, you did
nice.
great.
Good job.
You did phenomenal.
In Canva.
All of you, to Trevor's point, Trevor said it great. You have phenomenal. Everyone has phenomenal looking. Matter of fact, we should just be outsourcing all of our creative stuff to Colombia, for crying out loud, in America, so.
Thank you, guys.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much, Mary. Congrats. Let's continue now with Mauricio. Mauricio Zuluaga. I'm asking our mentors, please, to look him up in the roster. Mauricio, okay, there you go. Mauricio, ¿desde dónde te conectas?
Hi, Guillermo. Hi, everybody. I am connecting from Colombia.
Okay.
From Medellin, actually.
Very good. Welcome.
Nice.
So you are ready? Are you ready?
Yes, you see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so give me a break and I'm ready.
Okay, so get started in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, welcome to Folklorica, Colombia's theme park. We got a disclosure here. We are not a digital or metaverse startup. We are a real-world experience entrepreneurship. In Folklorica, we make Colombia thrilling for you. We got in Colombia more than 1 million kilometers of extension. We're bigger than Spain, France, and Germany together. So we are going to give it to you all packed in one place and in one day. All that biodiversity, different cultures, climates, foods, music, all it at one place. We got a problem, 6 million tourists coming to Colombia, lack of places specialized, and we don't explode our real richness, that is our culture. And now our unique proposal and our product is going to be a theme park, 1 hour from Medellin. We will have VR and AR attractions, live shows, and mechanical and immersive paths. The market is a big market. In LATAM, it's a market of $30 billion. Mexico is 7.8 billion. At Colombia, it's 375 million. So we got a big gap to cover, like taking approach of all the people that is coming to our country. Our objective is to get a sum of $18 million. So the business model is mainly based on the income by the entrance, the fee of entrance. We pretend to have 1,200 people per day, spending $60 and $300 operational days that will be 21 million on income per year, besides all the other incomes that comes later, like corporate event, merchandise, food and beverage. Then our competence, we got places like Guatapé with 3.7 million people coming per year, Comuna 13 with 2 million people coming per year. So they are our lack of hospitality or lack of specialized theme. Folklorica will have both of them. We are gonna be top of mind. Then about the team, I'm Mauricio Zuluaga. I have founded 2 companies and 5 brands. And in the advisory members, I got pretty good people like Gustavo Cordova, CEO of Panaca, a theme park, and Javier Lopez of Kidzania. He's Mexican. He got Kidzania all over the world. Now our current projects, we have already done rebranding. We are pre-negotiating land, and we are applying to some raising of cultural budgets of Colombia. Now the ask is gonna be at 2 stages, and the stage 1 is 1 million and discountable note with a cap roof of $100 million, and it's gonna be for the MVP and to close the deal with
Time
the
up.
land. All right, and that's it. Thank you, parceros.
Okay, parcero, thank you very much. Congrats, Mauricio. Well, we are
Thank
going to
you.
listen to our mentors' feedback and grading for your pitch. Let's get started with Trevor. Trevor.
Oh, this is so hard to score. This is such a wild idea. Like, I love that someone is saying, hey, I want to do a theme park. But I don't think this is in any way VC investable. That doesn't mean it's not worth getting investment. I want to be clear here, right? No venture capitalist wants to give you money. There are tons of other types of funding that may be available to you. You've already mentioned you're getting some government grants for culture, this sort of thing. I don't know hardly anything about this space, right? Because not a lot of people do, I don't think. Some of your total addressable market math on the back of it looks sus to me. But again, I don't really know this space. What I do know is your CapEx and your OpEx are going to be horrifying to somebody who's used to SaaS margins, right? Like, it's going to be, I'm used to hardware margins, and neither of those is anywhere near as bad as this. So at this point, then, this becomes a story of, is Mauricio the person that I believe can take a $1 million note and turn it into something good enough to land a $10 million note to fund the operation of this business for 2 years while it gets enough visibility and presence to actually be self-sustaining. And you've got some good advisors in your background. And that you've got a background as a restaurateur is a gesture in the direction of you might be able to do this. But so much of what needs to happen to make this occur with, theatrical experience and people, not just architecture, but building like Imagineers from Disney, these types of people, I don't see the team yet. And this has to be a story where this team of superheroes is going to make this incredible thing happen. Because you don't have product yet. You can't have product for like 3 years, right? You don't have land yet because you can't till you get the money. So I think, as much as I love the idea, because this is wild and I love crazy ideas, I don't think the presentation is yet the thing to make this idea real. And you're at the launch track stage, right? So you've got an idea, there's some interest in it, but now you really have to be good enough to get funding. And I don't think this is the right presentation for it. I'm going to give it a 2, despite how much I love about what you're doing here.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. Chris, go ahead,
All right.
please.
Can you flip back to your ask slide real quick, if you don't
Yes.
mind? All right. So this is where you're dead. Because what you have here is you basically are putting a val cap of $100 million. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is the highest valuation cap I would have ever seen in my life in a pre-seed stage for sure, especially on a $1 million raise. that's unheard of, right? Maybe your overall ValCap for your stage 2, but people aren't interested in your stage 2 until they see you can perform on a stage 1. Now, to Trevor's point, like a lot of people try to put things in to get people to say yes. The biggest thing with investing is de-risking, which means not trying to get people to say yes, but make it hard for them to say no. And unfortunately, you got a bunch of things that are just number problems here and there that are canceling. Now, to Trevor's main point, venture capital firms won't invest in this. That doesn't mean angels won't, family offices won't, private equity firms won't. I love your advisors, man. I was looking up Kidzania just a moment ago. Like, these are legit, brother, but you're not telling that story in here correctly. But what you do have hidden on one of your pages is that you're talking about this AR and VR experience that you're going to do as well. That is something that you should start with in an early phase, because imagine if you hired a damn film crew, went out, engaged, or whatever you got to do to get AR and VR, and you started using that as a pre-selling tool towards getting people to travel to your destination. Furthermore, you can go to my buddy, I think it was, I can't remember who it was, maybe Oscar, somebody who's got the programs at schools, right? And say, hey, listen, bring this experience in, experience Colombia, experience this area through AR and VR. That's sellable now. You get cultural enrichment dollars from organizations in the US that are trying to promote Colombian tourism, or if there's Africa diaspora, Colombia people that live in the US. There's a lot of money for this. You have a digital product there, and you don't need a big ass parcel of land to get there. You just need to rent it, take some video footage. So I'd like to talk to you about your staging here. And then one of the other things that's probably going to be expensive is things like construction expense and stuff like this, propping up some buildings and all this. Different type of investor altogether. Those things are securitized by the asset, right? So you'd want to ask for that money from a different investor that you'd want to ask for your business money from, or your SaaS money from. Because the great thing about real estate is there are people that'll build all of your buildings for $0 if you sign a 20 or 30-year lease on it, right? Because to them, it's just moving their money through a 1031 transaction out of one profit center to another, which means they're going to avoid taxes. So you need to think about this from a strategic standpoint from the very beginning of your presentation. My nerd-ass business partner, Russell, loves these kind of weird things where you got to think about it uniquely. So I'm going to set up a time where you can talk to him, right? I do have some experience in experiential tourism, right? I got a lot of weird experience, right? But in this case, I like what you're doing. But until you get the story right and we divide these products out and stage your ask, you're dead in the water with venture capitalists. Not because they don't like it. They probably want to buy a season pass. But it's because the unit economics and the numbers and everything will not work with their thesis. And Guillermo, he's a venture capitalist to some degree. I'm sure he can probably also agree with that sentiment. You're not going to find a VC firm in the world that will have something like this in their thesis directly, you know? So we have to tell the right story to get it there. Make sense?
Oh, okay. Yes, for sure, for sure. Thanks to both of you. And I know sometimes I think I'm at the wrong place, mostly when I do the pitches, because it always come to the
Yeah,
table.
don't look at it like that, right? That's a good way to look at it. I can tell you, my first cohort in Founder Institute was a vertical cohort, and they were all brick and mortar businesses. A lot of them brick and mortar. But you see, the thing, I came from Main Street, right? I didn't come from Silicon Valley. I thought I knew everything about business and pitching and all this. Then I got to Silicon Valley, which is the global venture landscape, and I realized I didn't know anything, right? The words are different, the language is different, the way you pitch is different, why they say no is different. They don't even care about profit. What they care about is the valuation raises from where they bought it into where it's going to exit from, because they don't make money on profit. They don't make dividends. You have a company that can make profit, but you also have these wrappers of it that can make performative outcomes from a technology standpoint, especially with that VR and AR. We have to separate the stories. We'll get there. I'll meet with you. You're not in the wrong place. You're in the right place, perhaps at the wrong time. But if you learn the stuff now, it will save you a lot of time. So that's why you're in the right place.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that after that, at the pitches I'm at the wrong place, but all the Founder Institute, yes, really helps to even construct the idea, even when this is a real world. So I made the disclosure all the time after learning that at the beginning people were lost, mentors were lost. And yes, I will keep going. I think both
This is
of
probably
you.
more investable than 9 out of every 10 SaaS companies I see. It's just different language to get there, because your whole damn thing is securitized to some degree, right? Which is de-risking for an entire class of investors, right? So let's chat about it in office hours, bro. We'll get there.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Chris and Trevor and Mauricio. And well, last but not least, Mr. Sven Seidler.
Yeah, and now to something completely different. One
Okay.
second.
Sven, I'm asking our mentors to look you up in the roster. All right. So, Sven, you are going to make a business presentation, a 3-minute pitch. Okay.
Loading, right?
Not yet, not yet.
Yeah, I also see it loading here. For me, it was there.
Yes.
Okay.
Now you're ready, right? Okay,
Oh,
so let's go in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sven Seidler, founder and CEO of Easy Voting, a blockchain-based platform that makes voting fast, secure, and accessible for everyone, for everywhere. We partner with 2 European universities, the European University of Münster in Germany and Module University in Vienna. Do you trust the current voting system? According to Reuters, more than 50% of the world's population doesn't, and this is alarming. Easy Voting is rebuilding trust in elections and making politicians more prominent again. We offer a blockchain-based solution that combines everything people expect from a modern voting platform. Here's our proof of concept using example data from the SAI, that is the Society of Architects and Engineers, and the Medellin Chamber of Commerce. We have a strong tie to these institutions, and they will support us currently in the next 3 months to fine-tune the user experience in the testing phase. Only registered users with a blockchain access can vote. Each vote is directly digitally signed and securely stored on the blockchain. It's cost-free for the user and fully auditable. Once the vote is counted, the user receives a confirmation and sees his vote on the screen. By the way, you can count from anywhere. All you need is an internet connection. Our business model is B2B and B2G, that is government. Governments and associations start with free pilot trials, followed by a licensing model, either per election or per voter volume. In Colombia alone, we estimate our serviceable obtainable market is over $10 million. We have already launched our roadmap. The SAI proof of concept goes live within the upcoming weeks, followed by our MVP release soon after. Yes, we have also competitors, but in our niche, we combine built-in auditability using Merkle trees with modular design. Clients can customize their voting concepts while maintaining full transparency and security. Our core dev team comes with proven experience from the Staria.network project that raised already over $200,000. Bob and I work together as lead developers at LTO.network and Florence.finance. We are raising $500,000 over the next 3 quarters, each quarter with its specific milestones. 93% of the money will go directly to our development team to launch a Polish product app by Q3, and the remaining 7% covers cloud infrastructure, product design, and others. Let's make sure your vote counts, and thanks a lot.
All right, right on time. Thank you, Sven. Congrats. So, well, let's listen to our mentors' feedback and grading for your pitch. So let's begin with Chris.
All right, so I spent my entire life working in politics and government at the highest possible levels. You'll hear about it tonight. But I don't think you've successfully addressed the reasons why there's not widespread adoption of blockchain in voting to date, right? I remember I think it was 2018, Sierra Leone. I think that was Agora that came in and did elections there. Even Agora, even your competitors don't have widespread adoption, with the exception of some fringe local elections or absentee ballots, right? So there are significant challenges for adoption in this, such as laws. I believe New York has legislation that would allow for this. In America, there's been plenty of legislation for this, but the problems of irreversible challenges, right? If there's something that breaks in this, it's almost irreversible when it's on the blockchain. Or how do you track anonymity and still maintain the blockchain? These are some common questions that have come out. Now, I have a research group that I work with, some of the top nerds that are progressive in this, and have been trying to push things like this legislatively for a while. I've been in public office. I served 3 terms in public office. I've been an advisor to it. There's never been a very serious conversation about this in any compulsory capacity in the U.S. It's talked about publicly. But it's not actually acted upon. So what we need to figure out here is where we can widespread pilot this in things that are not compulsory government elections, but still matter. I believe Dubai did something like this in land trust, but it wasn't government elections. You'd have to look into that. But they used it for a different application. And then when they proved it there, it basically makes it hard to disagree with it for widespread elections, right? So what I want to do is get you in the room, myself, maybe a couple other people, for us to just red team every aspect of this, because I'm interested to hear your answers. You're German, which means you've got quality answers coming from this, because the way you all do things in Europe when it comes down to elections is actually a little bit more thought out at times than how we do things in the West over here, right? But that's the point of entry. I don't see your differentiation from Agora and the others spelled out, but I do know some of their failures. So I need to know not how you're going to be successful like them, but how you're not going to fail at widespread adoption like they have. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm going to give you a 4 because I like it. I know you have all the pieces in there, but in all actuality, my business partner would come in here and probably give this a 1 because he doesn't have enough of the differentiation to be able to tell why this is anything different yet. I know you have it though, but I'm giving you a 4 because I think I can help. But more importantly, I like what you're doing, and I got a lot of questions. Depending on your answers, it's just how long it stays at a 4. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, and definitely, I wouldn't have gone into the politician direction, if I wouldn't be sure, absolutely sure, that we start with the politics. Normally, I would have been starting.
Where are you starting with the politics?
Pardon?
Where are you starting? What
In
country?
the Society of Architects and Engineers, and then Chamber of Commerce, and then
this isn't politics. This is trade association.
let's say public. Let's say
yeah. What you're talking about here in America, we call them 501c6. Those are trade associations, right? I like that. So what it is it's compulsory. The organization's bylaws call for elections. They call for security. They call for all this. And trust me, these things get cheated on all the time. And where I would also go is into partisan politics as your first step into politics. So when the Republican, Democrat, Green Party, Libertarian Party, when they're electing their officers internally, when they're doing things that aren't actually done through the election commission, but still influence politics. Prime example, the Democrat and Republican national conventions. It is a shitstorm when it comes down to doing voting there. So much so that it changes American politics, which changes global politics in geopolitical finances, right? So we want to pilot in places like that, and you want to start with the Democrat Party, and you want to start in the partisan side over there. I got a whole plan here, but I like your trade associations as the first path. I want to learn more. That's what matters.
Great.
Key to presentations is not to get investors. The key to presentations and pitches is to get a second meeting. You've earned that with me. All right?
Thanks.
All right.
All right. Well, wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Now let's listen to Trevor's feedback and grading.
This is good progress from the last time you and I talked in office hours. You've got a better focus on kind of what your approach is to market. You've already got people now who are saying, I will use you. That's a huge step forward, right? You found stakeholders who want this. And that was the big thing I talked about when we were in office hours, is like the people who have the ability to choose if you're being used don't want this. And you have to find people who do. Going into trade organizations is a good way to step around that. Chris, of course, in the politics space knows way more than I do. So he knows how to get you in there. I think it is a classic mistake to say we're raising our pre-seed and 97% of it goes into tech, because that tech that you are going and building does not get you your next round. And once you're on the VC roller coaster ride, every 18 months you have to have not product that makes you investable. You have to have the story that says we're going to continue to 10x every 18 months in value, so you keep writing us checks. And building your core product isn't the way to make that happen. So I would give some serious thought about the use of the funds, and I would definitely, as you go a little further down the line with these first couple of pilot associations, pull some stats out of there to make the use case for why people will want to switch to easy voting. Also, the name is way better, by the way. I forget what your name was before, but it was not this, I don't think.
It was easy voting. Now I have got a logo.
Oh, okay. I guess it's the difference. So yeah, I think like overall you've made good progress here. I'm fractional 2 and 4. I'll come to a 4 for this because I think you've made enough progress that last time when I said this is definitely a 2, you have progressed from there. But you definitely need to make the case for still that this is like that enough people will give you money. And once you go the VC route, I have to see this as VC scale. I'm not convinced that you have a path to make this VC scale yet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Wow, that was great. Yeah, great feedback. Valuable feedback.
Thank you, Trevor, and congrats, Ben. So now we continue with the next point for our agenda. Tonight's mentors are going to deliver their keynotes. So let's get started with Mr. Chris Fultz, the one and only, like in Vegas, Chris Fultz.
Is that how they do it? Is that how they do it in Vegas, buddy? All right, let me just get my screen up here. All right. Well, I got to say, I'm really impressed with everyone, and I don't say that lightly. I was expecting, again, I never know what to expect when I'm outside of the US because we influence things in so many negative ways. You guys have surpassed so many of the cohorts and so many of the leaders that have similar businesses in our Silicon Valley program, which is our marquee program. So you should all be happy to hear that. But what I'm here tonight to talk about is go-to-market strategy. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. When I first got involved in Silicon Valley, I did not know that GTM meant go-to-market, right? There's all these acronyms and all this. Matter of fact, I saw AMA on everything, and I'm like, why is the American Medical Association involved in everything in the startup ecosystem when that was Ask Me Anything? But you see, what I'm actually here to talk to you about is not like buzzwordy stuff. I'm trying to talk to you about how you actually go to market in a unique way. Now, the biggest challenge that all of you are going to face when it comes down to launching your business and going to market, I promise you, very easy for me to tell you right now. That is you. It's always going to be you. Okay. And it's the way that people think about things. And how do you get out of your own way when it comes to going to market? Well, it starts with changing the way you think about go to market, specifically with who you're talking to and who you're going to market with. Those are your stakeholders. And you're going to hear me talk about stakeholders a lot tonight because they play a huge role on helping you get to your customers. And that's what go-to-market's all about. It's getting your first customers. And a lot of people ask me, like, Chris, everyone uses this word stakeholders. What does that mean? And who are my stakeholders? I take a very broad way of looking at this. I break stakeholders down into 3 specific classes. Your internal stakeholders. This is very easy. This is you, your team, interns, everyone that's on the inside of your company. These are the people that play a significant role in your go-to-market strategy. But then what a lot of people don't take into consideration is that people outside of your company play a role in it as well. Your customers and everything like this, they live outside of your company, but they're just as important. But then what a lot of people don't think about is how their competitors are also stakeholders of theirs as well. This is in the expanded class of a lot of people, and a lot of you tonight are going to be dealing with expanded stakeholder classes, government agencies, policy, electorate people, right? Everybody's going to be dealing with the class of people that they're not directly dealing with, but they're still your stakeholders as well. Now, why does all this matter? Well, what I can tell you without any uncertainty is that great go-to-market strategy requires great storytelling. Now, before I sit here and spend all this time telling you a bunch of like success stories and all this, like you normally hear in presentations like this, I'm going to tell you a story about failure. Right. So it's not often that people are like a guest speaker at a thing and they're your teacher and they're going to tell you how they failed. Well, I'm going to tell you how I failed. I'm from this town, Rockford, Illinois. It's outside of Chicago. Right. And most people wouldn't know where this place is, but they may know this band Cheap Trick that was popular in the 80s, or they may know this movie, A League of Their Own, about the baseball team from our hometown. But you see, I grew up knowing that Rockford, Illinois was one of the most dangerous cities in all of America to live in. And now, why did that actually matter to me? Right? I mean, it seems like a decent enough main street. Well, I grew up where both my parents were in law enforcement, but they weren't just normal law enforcement people. My dad was a sniper and a hostage negotiator. My mom was in the FBI before she became a black belt ninja investigator. And when you grow up in a family with police officers, everybody's like, oh, this dude's going to be a police officer. He's going to go in the military and everything. And I can tell you right now, when you grow up in that environment, you want to be as far away as possible. So I wanted to become an astronaut at a very young age, right? I was for sure this was going to happen. Now, I got so involved in astronaut stuff that I was involved in my first NASA program when I was 10. I made world history, the first young nerd to talk to astronauts in space through a ham radio. I even got scholarships to Space Academy. And this is where I learned that there are physical fitness requirements to be an astronaut. Now, I'm what the doctors call a fat kid growing up, or I'm not going to lie to you. Okay, I guess I'm still a fat adult, but I was definitely a fat kid. And what they said is that you got to fit into these space outfits and appropriate dimensions and all this. And I promise you, the last time I ever frowned when a pizza was around was about this age. But they told me to say, Chris, don't worry. You can get these rules changed. You just got to talk to some people that make rules here. And I'm like, all right, point me in the right direction. They said, all right. I think they were joking with me. They say you got to go to Washington, D.C. You got to talk to the president of the United States, and they will change the rules to allow fat people to go into space. And I don't think they actually thought I was going to pursue this, getting in touch with the president of the United States about it, but that's exactly what I did. See, my uncle was a big lobbyist, and they didn't recognize this. So I went to my uncle, and I said, Uncle, I need to get in touch with the president. I want to change the laws. Now, I think what he thought is I was announcing my campaign for presidency at like 12 years old. So then he got me involved with this guy who was running for United States Senate. Now, it was a big deal because this guy had never been in political office before. Nobody knew who he was. And I'm like, sign me up, right? So between the age of 12 and to the time I was 16, I started working with him and I was his youth director. It was the first time I ever ran a race that we won. And we beat somebody who was already in the U.S. Senate. This guy was elected and nobody thought that it could be done. And once you start getting success being involved in these campaigns, I was his youth director. Then they got me involved with this guy who was a U.S. congressman. Now, why this matters is this guy was in charge of all business in America. He was the chairman of the Small Business Committee for the House. They make all the decisions on funding and laws that affect all of our startups. And he basically taught me everything I needed to know about politics. I was even his driver. Now, because I was a fat kid, I looked as if I was old enough to have a driver's license, even though I didn't, and he didn't know that. But he knows now that I was driving around without a license. But you see, that was when the first time I realized how much politics and government and people outside of our startups play a role in everyday business. Now, from here, they got me involved in the big leagues. But by the time I was 17 years old, I was introduced to this lady, Elizabeth Dole. She was the president of the American Red Cross. She was Secretary of Transportation, Secretary of Labor under 2 presidents, probably one of the most impactful leaders in America at this time. But what everybody knew her for was the fact that her husband was Senator Bob Dole. Now, this is the first time I realized that a person can have everything going for them to the point that they're going to run for president of the United States as a Republican in the year 2000, which was unheard of. But just because you have everything going for you, all the great ideas and all the wonderful plans, doesn't mean you're going to get where you want to go. And that was the first time I had to face that because we didn't win this election. We got 3rd place in a preliminary election, and we knew we had to drop out of the presidential race. And it was devastating for me, right? I wasn't even old enough to vote, but I'm working for this presidential campaign. But luckily, there was this guy in the campaign. He said, listen, there's this dude down in Texas, USA, that we think may have a chance of doing something. That dude was George W. Bush. Now, this was my 2nd presidential race. I'm not even old enough to vote. And here I am, and this is the first time I realized you can have absolutely no plan, and actually get elected to the United States of America if you have all the right marketing, go-to-market strategy. And that's what George W. Bush did. We won this race. Everybody thought we wouldn't. We did. And here's the president. By the time I'm old enough to vote, I've been involved in 2 presidential races. Politics became my thing. Here's me with frosted blonde-tipped hair with a bunch of Republican leaders that thought I was crazy with the blonde highlights. And I was in every newspaper as this young wonderkin in politics. But you see, what I was good at was understanding humans. And I was very good at fixing problems. But then a problem came into my life I couldn't actually help. And you see, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. And I come from a Sicilian family raised by these 3 generations of Italian women. And when somebody gets sick, you come home to help, right? So I moved back home to my mom's basement, got involved in local politics, and I had my wisdom teeth pulled a few years prior. And although I didn't use the prescription for Vicodin then, I found it when I moved back home. I made photocopies of this prescription, and I went and got it filled at several locations. And I did about 3 months of Vicodin in 2 weeks. Now, one of 2 things happens in that situation. You either die, and I'm still here today, or you become a horrible addict. And that's what happened to me. Now, the only thing that stopped me from this addiction was my mother died. And as I mentioned earlier, my mom was very influential. She was the one who sued for equal rights for women in law enforcement. Before her, it was policemen, police women. After her, police officer, right? She made major instrumental change. But if you look inside this article, you'll see this. Son arrested at the funeral home. I'm her only child. See, I was arrested at the funeral home for stealing a coin purse to feed my drug addiction. Now, I could tell you, I've done a lot of crazy things in my life, but here's this article honoring my mom, and inside of it, this ridiculous thing I did was so unfair to her. But you see, my first campaign I ever got involved with was this judge, right? I love this guy, and he called me up right after, and he's like, listen, you know what? I know you're concerned your mom died and everything. You're probably not going to have a place to stay and everything. I got you covered. The place he was talking about was jail, right? They sent me to here. And you see, I spent the next 120 days in a room filled with people that my parents had arrested several times over, with an article that just came out talking about how horrible I was at my mom's funeral. It's not the place you want to be. But what I realized right away is that I was wrong about a lot of things in my life when it came to people. You see, some of the smartest people I ever met were in jail. They had brilliant businesses. They were illegal. But you see, if they had the right training, if they went to Founder Institute, they would launch a startup versus selling drugs on the street corner. But you see, I learned and I made a commitment to several of these people that when I got out of jail, I was going to start a firm, realizing that if you can get George W. Bush elected, you could probably help somebody starting their life over, launch their business. And that's exactly what I was going to do. Because you see, I realized that my entire life, I spent all this time celebrating victories every single day. That's what it was. It's about the latest victory. When I realized that our legacy is 100% built on how we reacted to failures. And I needed to help these people react to failures in a way that actually made amends, like they say to do in recovery. And when you go to jail as a Republican, you come out as a Democrat. I just think that's how the system works. So here's me when I got involved with Democrat Party politics. As the governor of California, the ambassador to Japan. You see, what I realized through the process is that I was actually court ordered to not do Republican Party politics because they thought it would be a trigger for me. But they didn't say anything about Democrat Party politics. And I got this lady elected to mayor, the first female ever elected in her town in 100 years. And then I spent 3 terms in public office myself. So when people tell you that you can't do something and everything's stacked against you, they're wrong. And you can read or listen all about that in this special on BBC, where I talk specifically about my go-to-life, go-to-market strategy and why I had to reevaluate everything. And what I, without any uncertainty, realize is that in startups and everything, we spend all this time trying to tell investors, employers, potential team members what makes us different. But what I learned through all my life in politics and going to jail and everything, that life is not about what makes us different. You need to take time to find what makes you the same. That means find what makes you the same as your customers, your employees, as your investors, because that's the story that we need to tell. Now, what I realized through all of this, even though in politics, all we do is sell people to the voters, but people don't like to be sold, but they love to buy. So people don't like to be sold and they love to buy. How do we actually get them to purchase? Well, you do that by relating to your customers. In effective go-to-market strategies, put relating to the customers paramount. In politics, we'd call this relating to our audience. And in modern day society, as you heard me say earlier, we call this relating to our stakeholders. Now, how did I end up doing this? How do I relate to stakeholders? As I after politics, I started a PR communication firm in downtown Chicago. It grew to be one of the largest in America. We took so many different clients on that nobody realized were even mattered, and we made changes. But what we did for all of them was we created stakeholder initiatives. We found a way to tell their story that brought even their competitors onto their side for product launch. And I'm going to give you 2 case studies of that tonight. Here's how I did it. I created this little grid of what goes into making a stakeholder initiative, and I call it core stakeholder initiative strategy. I mean, that's just a long ass sentence, so I just call it core. And it starts with the concept. I heard about all your concepts tonight. Some were clearer than others. In politics, this is the political candidate and the campaign, right? So it's very clear cut. But in your startups, this is where your problem, solution, and all of these things exist. Most importantly, though, it's the idea of being able to have a cohesive message, much similar to when you had your 1-sentence pitches at the beginning of FI. Once you have that figured out, is when you should be talking about what you're offering to the world. In this example of politics, this is the political campaign platform. This is why you should elect Chris Fultz to be your congressman. And this starts beginning day 1 in your startup. Believe it or not, even when you put your email newsletter sign up on your website, that's an offer. You're offering them good information and content about your brand in exchange for them buying it from you with their email address. Everything is an offer, right? Call to action is key. That's when it all starts. But the most important thing of all these is relationships. In politics, this is, of course, our voters, our donors, the people that endorse us. Democrats for George W. Bush, firefighters for Elizabeth Dole. These are all relationships that represent large swaths of our customers. And in that world, those were voters. In this situation for startups, it's very easy. Brand ambassadors love to be part of things that are cool. So what you need to do is you always need to make the cool kids table. Okay, so that means why would people want to help you market your brand? Well, because somehow you took a moment to find out what makes you the same as them. And then you're able to tell a story together. And I'm going to help you guys get there with some examples. And then the last thing, which everybody always thinks comes first, comes exposure. And this is when you start talking about your stuff. You can't talk about something clearly until you've identified the concept to the point people understand it. You have an offer, even if it's something basic, you understand that there are relationships necessary to get there. Otherwise, people don't find it interesting enough to talk about, right? And people always, they came to my PR firm and they're like, Chris, can you get me in the news? I said, no problem. Very easy. Do something newsworthy. You see, that's the very simple thing that people forget to do. Just because you're launching a business doesn't mean anybody cares. Okay, your customers don't even care yet until it becomes news to them, until you tell the story about how their lives become better because of it, until you expose them to all the things behind the scenes. In politics, we never even liked buying ads. We would do things newsworthy, put out a press release, and they would show up and talk about it, right? So tonight, I'm going to tell you, just like at the beginning, I said the most important thing when it comes down to it is unique storytelling, but sometimes people, they're not the best storytellers yet. I believe everyone's a good storyteller if they find the right story. And sometimes you need to create that. So what's the most effective and instrumental thing for all of you at the stage I've seen you tonight is creating the right story. Before you think about how you tell it, you need to create the right story first. I'm going to give you 2 quick ones as examples tonight. The first one is going to be how within 1 week we went from an idea to being in the room with President Bill Clinton. Okay, so this is how this one went down. This dude came to me. He's like, listen, I'm a doctor. I got these surgical centers, but I want to launch this app for concierge medicine, right? Where he wanted to get a bunch of doctors onboarded to his marketplace, similar to Jobber from earlier tonight, right? And then once you have all the doctors on board, then with them comes all the patients. And I'm like, all right, this seems easy enough. But he says, Chris, our customers are doctors, all right? And when the doctors come, they're the ones who actually entice the patients to come, and we don't get paid for the surgery on the patients unless we have doctors there, and we don't get any of it unless they qualify for payment. And I'm like, what do you mean by qualify for payment? See, what he described to me is that these patients pay one of three pathways, right? You have people that pay cash money, right? And he says they're never really a problem. If somebody's using cash for surgery, that means they're not on the government dime, they don't have insurance, they can afford it. They're the ones that have the least barriers that he's experienced. But then in America, we have this kind of ludicrous private insurance industry. And what he says is here, a lot of people, they may need shoulder surgery, knee replacement, and insurance will cover all of it, but they have to make a copay, which means that maybe they're doing a $50,000 surgery, but if they can't afford to put $2,000 in cash money up front, the insurance won't cover the rest of it, which means although there's somebody willing to pay $48,000, this guy can't collect it unless that patient can pay $2,000. But then there was the third class of people, those that were on public aid, which means that the government paid for everything. There was no copay or anything. And he says, these are sometimes the hardest people to get surgeries done for. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, sometimes they can't afford to take 2 days off work. They can't afford a taxi ride to the surgical center. These barriers were small, but the payment to the doctor was equally large, but the barriers were so small. So I said to him, I was hired as his marketing firm at this time. And I said, I knew how much money he paid us, which was a lot. So I said, I'm going to go back to my office. I'm going to add up how much you paid us over the year. I need you to go back to your office and add up all the copays that people couldn't pay, all of the small taxi rides and everything that you can assume that people couldn't afford. And I want to compare these numbers. And what we realize is we're spending 3 to 4 times more on marketing than it would be if we covered all of those fees. And by covering those small fees, we even got a transportation service to pick people up at home and bring them to the surgical center, because we knew that $50 fee would mean that they would have surgery, they'd get back to work, and we'd get paid $50,000 for the surgery. None of it would have happened. So that's when we decided to come up with a stakeholder initiative for a go-to-market strategy. Now, mind you, this was all to get doctors onto his app. Okay. So what we needed to know is we wanted to tell people that we were doing something charitable here to help people. He was just going to fund the money, these small payments, because he knew the windfall that was coming. So we created Project Hugs, helping uninsured get surgery. On day one, we created this simple website where we had a call to action for people that had faced this. We wanted to hear stories for people that couldn't get surgery done and everything, customer discovery, right? And then we wanted to figure out brand ambassadors. So we asked people if they would come on here and help us spread awareness that if you come to the surgery center, we will eliminate your barriers to getting your life back to where you deserve to be. This is how many ambassadors we got in the first hour. We had dozens and dozens and dozens. But you see, in our initial market discovery, somebody got a hold of our email and they said, listen, we got this dude coming to town on Saturday, and he's heard about what you're doing at Project Hugs. Mind you, we started this thing on Monday. So, and we got 2 tickets available for you to come out and meet him. What that was Bill Clinton at the Clinton Global Initiative, in which we left with a $15 million commitment for Project Hugs. Now, this was a go-to-market strategy for an app for a surgical center, for a doctor lead generation thing for patients. And because we told the right story, we got the right outcome. So much so, even the first lady came to town. This is Michelle Obama. And she said, I love what you're doing at Project Hugs. And this was gangbusters. To this day, they still make impact. When this was a marketing initiative like 10 years ago almost, right? And it's still making impact every single day. But let me bring you to case study number 2. It was brought up earlier talking about circular economy and the importance of the environmental impacts and everything that are made when it comes down to waste. I'm going to tell you a story about my friend Monica. And Monica's go-to-market strategy became her business. So Monica came to me one day. She said, Chris, listen, I got this shoe company. It's called Style Up Girl. And my goal is I want to be the top selling shoe on Amazon. I'm like, all right, I can do this. And I'm like, I need to see these shoes, right? This is something I know a little bit about fashion. And then she showed me the shoes. I'm like, damn, I don't know if I can sell those. Like, I don't even know the market, right? They got spikes and dangly things and all this, right? But then she told me a story. She said every single day when she was walking into her home office, she walked by the front door of her house or her building, and there was a gentleman outside with a sign. And the sign says, I'm homeless, I need shoes, right? It wasn't asking for money. It wasn't asking for food. He was asking for shoes, and he clearly had no shoes on. And she says she would like to find a way to give shoes to people like that. And I said, Monica, I hate to tell you, but that dude's not going to wear these shoes. And she's like, Chris, I got a better idea. A lot of people buy our shoes and they have old shoes, right? So imagine instead of spending money on marketing campaigns, which I'm the marketing campaign, right? So I'm like, right away, I'm like, oh, damn. She's like, instead of spending money on marketing campaigns, what if we gave them a prepaid mailer that went with their shoes and encouraged them to put a pair of old shoes in the box and send it back to us, and we can give them to this homeless guy? And I'm like, I love this. And she's like, Chris, I have already thought about this. We're going to call it Happy Box. Now, although it's an adorable name and everything, it wasn't going to fly. We were giving back with a box. So I said, let's call it Give Back Box, right? And she's like, all right. So what do we have to do? So I came up with this idea to do the pilot. That's what they came to help operationalize their idea. So what we did is we made this grainy graphic for Facebook. This was literally it, right? We put this up online, and then we printed off the logo that I created onto 8.5 by 11 paper and taped it to a cardboard brown box. Then we made this envelope because we needed to figure out what to put the prepaid thing in there. And we worked out a deal that unless they used it, we weren't going to be charged, thank God. Otherwise, we would have been broke. And then we found a local nonprofit because we didn't think it would be a good idea for us just going around throwing shoes out to people that we assumed needed them. That would help us distribute them. And then we mailed off our first things. Now, we didn't know anything was going to happen at first. And then we got our first boxes in. Here's Monica with her business partner at the time in one of my offices in Chicago. And this whole room was full of various sized boxes. And they let me open the big one in the corner. And I'm like, yes, it's going to be some normal shoes and everything. And this is exactly what was in it, right? Now, there was a pair of shoes in there, but it wasn't what I was thinking. But then there was all this other stuff, clothing, there was graphing calculator, children's toys. You see, the customers, probably because I wasn't explicit enough on the marketing material, but the customers had another idea. They wanted to use this vehicle to give back just in general. It wasn't give back shoebox. And because I didn't actually, you see how it says a way to donate used items? I wasn't explicit enough. I accidentally forgot to put for shoes, even though that was the original premise of this. So then we're like, damn, this is a big deal. Press release went out. It was all over the news in Chicago, a safe haven for what we did here. And then we got calls from companies like Karmaloop and Newegg. These are massive online stores, an awesome fashion store and a computer store. And they're like, listen, guys, we got big boxes and our customers care about giving back. We would love to try this with our products. Now, this was a marketing campaign for her shoe store to become an Amazon bestseller. All right. And we haven't even sold shoe one. Okay. I mean, I'm failing bad at what I was actually hired to do. And then what they said, though, is we need to have a better place to distribute this. So you need to find someone that has more of a footprint. And then came in Goodwill. And the Goodwill is one of the largest organizations in America where people donate things and they hire people that are starting their lives over to sell them. So it is a true circular economy here. And then we were off to our pilot number 2. Now, we didn't know this was going to be successful or not. We were rolling the dice. I was carrying a lot of heat because I didn't get results from Amazon. We didn't sell a single shoe on there until we got a call one day from Amazon, right? And they said, listen, guys, we love what you're doing so much that we want to make Give Back Box our holiday give back promotion for Amazon across all of their salespeople. And that's exactly what they did that year. And year after year after year, they have figured out how to incorporate Give Back Box into their selling apparatus to help people across their platform do exactly what Monica did to help that person with shoes, right? So much so that this expanded across the globe. It's in distribution centers at Give Back Box, at Goodwills all over. She's been featured in possibly every media thing, but exposure's not everything, right? It's great to be in the news when you're doing newsworthy things, but she got there because of her numbers, right? And although these numbers are slightly outdated, I need to update them. There's been over 1 million, closer to 2 million Give Back Boxes that have been circulated around the world right now, giving second life to products that would have gone to landfills. Right during the pandemic, over 55,000 pounds of Legos were distributed to children that have never had the opportunity to play with Legos through Legos Replay campaign. Right, so it got not only out of the dumpster, but gave people a real chance at being a kid for the first time. Right? In 2020 alone, 1.4 million pounds, 19 million articles of clothing were diverted from landfills. But more importantly than all, when I told you earlier about the importance of storytelling and the importance of stakeholders, you see, we didn't get to be the #1 sale shoe company on Amazon. Matter of fact, she wasn't even selling shoes anymore. But what we did get was a lot of her competitors that came on board to have Give Back Box be their social impact program. Companies that she was competing with at the beginning have now hired Give Back Box to implement their social impact. You see, your competitors are your stakeholders from day one, but most people would never thought they would be your customers on day 60. And that's exactly what happened here. You see, what both of these leaders have in common is authenticity. So many people come to me and said, Chris, I got the most disruptive idea. I'm going to change the world, blah, blah, blah. I've heard it a bazillion times, and I'm not saying you can't. But what I can tell you, the most disruptive thing in the world right now is being authentic. It's hard to be authentic. It's a difference between being authentic and being honest, right? You can tell the difference. Authenticity is a new disruptive. And I always thought that, a lot of people think they know everything. And through my life, my mother always told me that you need to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you. And in 2021, I got the call from the Institute for Real Growth. And this is a list of the top 100 CMOs in the world, right? Facebook, Nissan, Grupo Bimbo, just for some brands down there. And all of their CMOs, they come together, they do this 7-month fellowship, they go to the Creative Festival in Cannes each year. And they said, Chris, I'd never been a CMO at this point, right? I just had a lot of roads that smelled like it. They said, Chris, we want to add you to our IRG 100 this year. And I spent months trying to talk them out of this, right? I had imposter syndrome to the extreme. But you see, they told me I wasn't there because of all the things that were different about my past than theirs. I was there for the things that made me the same. And that's when I really realized in life that you have to wake up every single morning and you need to ask yourself one question, right? You need to ask yourself, am I doing things for the right reasons? Am I starting this company for the right reasons? Am I in Founder Institute for the right reasons? Am I doing everything for the right reasons? Because what I realized is in my life, I've done a lot of good things, right? I have. But oftentimes I did things for the wrong reasons. And when you don't do things for the right reasons, there's a problem. But when you do things for the right reasons, I promise you, they don't end for the wrong reasons, right? So I appreciate all of your time tonight. More importantly, I appreciate your presentations and the impacts you're making on society from the buckets that you are. I look forward to spending time with all of you in office hours. And I look forward to hearing my colleague Trevor's presentation, where he actually talks about real tactical things that are implementable immediately, where I just get to sit here and tell you about failures and some successes in the end. So thank you all very much.
Wow, thank you, Chris. Emotional, inspirational. Well, there are no words to thank you for this.
I appreciate you all. Thank you, buddy.
All right, I'm pretty sure that there are plenty of questions. Estoy seguro que hay muchas preguntas, las podemos comenzar a formular en el chat, pero igual Chris está ofreciéndonos office hours. De manera que, well, thank you. Thanks again, Chris. And now, the one and only Trevor Longino.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Chris is a phenomenal storyteller. I always love hearing what he has to share. And it's what he talks about sets the tone on the big picture. I like being the one who follows behind him because I'm going to start to talk about numbers and math and specific things. I am not the storyteller he is, but I think I have some. If you are inspired by him, let me give you some tools you can put in your hands and put to use. So what the frick is go-to-market is, I think, it's a broad question. It's a good one to ask. And the real thing you have to understand is to build a $1 million marketing engine, and I have built more than 240 of them now, you need to know 3 things and you need to know 4 numbers, and that is it. And the 3 things you need to know, and Chris actually talked about some of these with a different language, because every marketer has their own special phrasing, is who your crowd is. Who are the 10 or 50 or 100,000 people who really want what it is you're making? And how do you start conversations with this crowd? How do you begin a dialogue with them? And they can begin one-sided. They've heard about you in a press release or an ad, and they begin to learn more about you and they dive into it. And then eventually you get enough confidence in your brand and in your product that they decide to give you money. If you know how to do these 3 things, you have a repeatable method to turn strangers into money. And that's the core of making a marketing engine work. But there are 4 numbers that you need to measure along the way, because they will let you know before you've wasted months of your life and thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're on the right track. And those 4 numbers, I'll get you in a second. First up, you need to begin testing your idea. You need to begin building with something as simple as a landing page. Anybody here who goes, oh, I'm pre-product, I don't have a website yet, I'm in stealth mode, I'm whatever nonsense reason you have for not having a website you can direct people to and see if you can compel them to give you their email address. You're coming up with reasons not to do the hard thing. As soon as you have a website, you begin to be real. Earlier today, what is it now? It's, I think, 8 hours ago, I gave a presentation for Founders Institute on how to have AI be your non-technical founder. I went from idea to live application in 60 minutes, and I built a landing page in 10. Nobody here has an excuse to not have a landing page by Friday. Special assignment, everybody. Here's something for you to worry about. If you don't have a landing page live, do it. What you've got to figure out, though, what you've got to balance here is money versus time. And as you are building your go-to-market efforts, you can either spend money if you have it, or you can spend time if you don't have it. The problem with time is early stage founders go, oh, I won't spend the money. It's so precious. The wolf at your door is spending money on ads, spending money on technology, spending money on quick things the money goes out in. But the rat in your basement is just the cost of you living. The time that you have to believe in your startup is finite. Eventually, you will give up on your idea because you have taken too long to prove it works. And if I can spend $200 or $400 or $800 and learn ways to not sell my product in a couple of days as opposed to a couple of months, that is money very well spent. I'll talk a bit about how you can make some of those trade-offs in a moment. But the main thing we're going to go through here, the way you go to market process works as a series of steps, is you have to figure out what is the story you're telling for a given audience. Right now, you have the blessing of anonymity. No one's ever heard of you. That means you get to pick who hears about you, and you get to pick what they hear. If you're Jeff Bezos, or if you're Elon Musk, or if you're Tesla, or if you're Walmart, everyone knows about you. You can't control the narrative. No one knows about you. You get to pick who hears about you and what they hear. And you get to change it because no one's going to remember you 2 weeks from now. If you say something different about yourself 2 weeks from now, no one's going to go, hey, I thought you were this other thing, right? Walmart can't be like, hey, actually, we're now a restaurant chain. You'd be like, no, you're not. You're Walmart. I buy groceries here. What are you doing? But you can pivot right now, and no one will really pay attention to the previous you that there was. Once you figure out the messaging that is working, you have to find a way to build and scale this. I was talking to a Founder Institute mentee today. She has a product. She's making about $700 a month with it. She's had it for 3 or 4 years. It's a hardware product. She's making about $300 a month, $700 a month every month. And I'm like, until you can put $3 in and get $9 back, or whatever multiplication you want to do from there, you don't have a business, you have a hobby. And once you know, if I invest this money, I get this much more back, this begins to be a replicable way to build a business. If you can't get your business to that stage, try a new business. And the sooner you can go, oh, my business will never get to that stage, chuck it out and build something new. Everybody in this room is a founder. You want to build. And I doubt all of you only have one idea. I doubt all of you will never have a business idea again. The way you have successes like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel and Bill Gates and any of these people is either they came from enough money where they could afford to be wrong a lot in a big way and still continue, or you find folks who are able to be wrong a lot in a small way, so that they didn't destroy themselves in the first 2 or 3 or 5 times. And then once you've got this working, where you can say, I put in $3 and I make back 9, then put in 30 and make back 90, put in 300,000 and make back $1 million. You have to scale this up. You get all these pieces together, this begins to work. So validate. How do we start? The first thing you have to figure out is what sets you apart. And I think I hammered almost everybody's pitches today on specifically that. There are, for any business idea anyone can conceive of, except maybe an amusement park located in actual Colombia, there's going to be 200 competitors someone can go to for you, right? Why you? What makes you different? And the ways to set yourself apart are legion. You can have pricing be different. You can have your actual product itself be different. You can have the placement where you're visible be different. You have the promotion be different. You can have the people you talk to be different. I just named the classic 5 Ps of marketing, which they've been teaching since 1940. And many marketers seem to think that the only way you can make a differentiation is either in the price or in the people. The other ones matter too. Find what makes you unique. Find the channel and the way you are different, and you're going to be able to move forward. The stories that Chris told today, he took a standard business idea and went, how do I place it somewhere that's absolutely insane and shouldn't work, except it did? How do I find people who are going to gather around on this that are not your usual people, so we're cutting through the noise? Let me tell you a story of the worst business idea I have ever had. This is Water Nuts. It is mail order water bottles. Why drink water from your tap or get water from the corner store when you can wait 3 to 5 business days and I will send you room temperature water that is too gross to drink because you have to refrigerate it? Cool. And then I'm going to take my bad idea and I'm going to give it a horrible product positioning because the water you need, this is the wrong darn page. Oh no. The water you need just when you need it. It's in the background here. I've messed up my own slides. Or the water you need now. Let me actually pop this out here. Pretend you didn't see this. There we go. This one. Sorry about that. I was mucking around with my slides while Chris was talking and got it wrong. The water you need just when you need it. Right? That idea is terrible positioning for a product that you have to wait 3 to 5 business days to get. Because if you ordered the water when you were thirsty, by the time you got it, you would be dead. So I have a product with a bad positioning, and I have a product with a bad, general appeal. With this, I'm not going to make much headway, right? The worst business idea I've ever had is taking this idea and trying to convince people this is more convenient than any other way to any other way to drink water, right? This is the most convenient way to do it. It's not. But if I shift the positioning a bit, if I do actually go to water clean and safe and healthy, don't trust what's in your pipes. This is the same thing. I could say, wait 3 to 5 days. I will get you water. But unlike your tap water in, for example, Flint, Michigan, where the tap water will kill you, or in Delaney, Pennsylvania, where they've done so much natural gas fracking that when you open up the water in your tap, you can light the tap water on fire. Like WTF, man, right? These places, they would love water that is clean and safe and healthy. But those aren't good markets. The only people still living in Delaney, Pennsylvania are the folks who are too poor to leave. They can't afford my fancy pants water. But I can convince people anywhere, your water might be bad to drink. There are some parts of Colombia, I'm sure, where the water is perfectly safe to drink, but people still look at it a bit askance. I'm in Montreal. My water is perfectly safe to drink, but my house is 119 years old. I think they made pipes out of asbestos and uranium back then. I don't know entirely what, but I don't trust that water, so I've installed a filter on my water lines. Once we start to talk about making this water clean and safe and healthy, and we say you wait 3 to 5 business days and I send you water bottles, the other thing I can do is I can say, you know what? I am not going to send you individual water bottles because that's too much plastic. It's bad for the environment. I'm going to send you a 50-liter water bottle. And then maybe Guillermo or Chris, you guys are strong enough to just drink out of a 50-liter water bottle, but I am not. So we put this water bottle on a stand, and then you fill up your cup from the water bottle, and what I've done is I've reinvented Culligan Water home delivery with those big, giant 50-liter water bottle that you fill up in the office, they do $1 billion a year, sending you water 3 to 5 business days after you order it at room temperature. Because they're selling cleanliness, they're selling dependability, they're not selling convenience. You find the way to be different, and what was your weakness becomes your strength. But you have to test and validate this idea. You have to find a way to make this replicable. And there's 2 ways you can do this. One of them is you can say, I've got some money more than I have time. So let me invest a modest amount into running advertisements. If you go to crowdtamers.com or you search for minimum viable sprint on crowdtamers.com, or you read my book, Validate First, on crowdtamers.com, there's a theme here. What I talk about a lot is running small ad campaigns, $100 ad campaigns that run for 48 hours. And those ad campaigns are on Meta, usually. You can also do YouTube if you happen to have video creative ready, where what you're looking for is how many people click on my ad. And that ad's click-through rate is kind of a measurement of their interest in what you're saying. If you can run an ad to an audience with a message that's your go-to-market offer, and you can get better than a 1.5% click-through rate on Meta or a 2.25% click-through rate on YouTube, you're beginning to cut through the noise. You've got to spend a couple $100 because you're going to be wrong the first time, the first 2 times, the first 5 times. Marketing is a story about failure a lot, not just on Chris's side of things. When you do marketing, you will get it wrong, particularly if it's your first time. So you want to make the wrong as cheap as possible. $100 in 48 hours is hard to beat. The other way you can do it is you can say, either I have an audience, I'm going to find a place with an audience. I'm going to go on Reddit. I'm going to go on X or on Threads. I'm going to post my idea out there and see how many people see it, if folks like it, if they engage with it, and if I can get them to actually check me out. If you are not yourself a user of Reddit or a user of YouTube or a user of TikTok, you will find it hard to be organic and authentic there, but pick one channel that you can own and distribute there. This will take months. Paid distribution takes days. Time or money? Which can you afford to spend is a question for you to answer, but you do want to validate this with hundreds or ideally thousands of points of data before you actually leap in. And then this was the slide that was, I duplicated this slide, the wrong one. All right, so for this audience, right, you end up with these guys. Culligan Water, as I mentioned, are the ones who have cracked this problem and make a bunch of money. So for them, this is their distribution channel. This is how they grew. How do you normalize whenever you find your audience? Well, you have to build and test a way to scale this up. The simple fact is, an ad that gets clicks for cheap at $100 isn't going to be the ad that makes you your first 10 or 50 or $100,000. You're going to have to slowly iterate through all these things, and you're going to iterate through in 10 steps. You're going to look at your persona. I just mentioned these 5 Ps, right? Who it is you're actually reaching out to, what it is you're selling. I mentioned this before, right? When you want to sell to me, don't talk about you, talk about me. Your product is going to change based off of who you talk to, right? Founders Institute, when speaking to somebody on the Validate track versus the Launch track, is actually a different product despite you all sitting in the same class. The way you talk to people changes their expectations from you. That's the positioning, how you're going to talk about this. Where are you visible? YouTube, LinkedIn, are you on radio? Are you? I had an interview with a guy on my podcast a couple months ago, Nick Huber. The way he got his first business up to 100K a month in revenue was he was writing advertisements in chalk on the ground in between the 2 biggest buildings in a university. Just that. That was his placement. People seeing his business name and his offer on the ground written in chalk, right? And then how can you perfect this? How can you make this something better constantly? When you're looking for new approaches, there are some specific ways to test your brand positioning. I'm going to mention a few of them here. But the way you want to move in here when you're describing the benefit you have as opposed to the features you have built is, if your audience knows a solution in this space, which usually they do, you should not be trying to do category definition at this stage. You're going to either find, hey, we're like these guys, but better at this. Hey, we're like these guys, but we do this differently. Hey, we're like these guys, but we're cheaper. Hey, we're like these guys, but somebody famous likes us. Hey, we're like these guys, but we're better quality. We're like these guys, but we're performing at a different level than they are. We like these guys, but we change the paradigm. And we are like these guys, but we are way easier to use, right? Any of this is coming into, I know this, but I'm different this way. You don't have to talk about like, hey, we're the Tinder for construction. Don't do that. But why do I use Tinder? Tinder helped me get into a relationship, helped me find somebody else. Cool. Find the real person that you want to talk to in the construction industry. There's the benefit statement you're coming out from. When you're building this, you're going to need a model. You're going to need to think of the ways to make somebody who doesn't know you into somebody who gave you money. And they teach this all over the place. This is the Pirate Metrics SaaS acquisition funnel. They teach it at Y Combinator. They may teach it with other parts here in Founder Institute. This is the classic funnel. There's one problem with this funnel. I don't like funnels. I don't like funnels for two reasons. One is if you've ever used a real funnel in the real world, you know everything you put in the top of a funnel comes out the bottom of a funnel. That's the point of a funnel. But in a sales funnel, like half of 1% comes out the bottom of it. And the other reason why I don't like funnels is even if you call this a sieve, which is what it really is, I don't know about your house. In my house, I have one funnel and one sieve. That's it. But you can't use somebody else's funnel or sieve or whatever dumb noun I'm going to use here to build your business. You must build your own system. And build is the relevant term here. There is a pyramid-shaped building, if we think about it, a pyramid, right? Sorry, a funnel-shaped building, which is a pyramid here. And in this pyramid, you'll notice I have 4 gaps in this pyramid, not because I'm bad at design, but because I am finally closing the loop I opened 15 minutes ago, which is you need to know 3 things and 4 numbers. And the 4 numbers you need to know are how many people cross these 4 gaps on their journey through your buyer's persona, right? How many folks hear about you and are interested enough to check you out online? How many folks check you out online and you get their attention enough to begin to start the buyer journey? They've given you their info. How many folks have given you their info and are beginning to consider buying you and changing a behavior? How many folks are beginning to change their behavior enough to give you money? If you measure these 4 gaps and you know what the numbers are, you can optimize for where it is wrong in each stage here. And when we think about our crowd and our conversation and our confidence, we're measuring here. And then the 4th C of the 3 C's, yeah, I'm bad at math, although we're talking about math. The 4th C of the 3 C's is close. Because once you know your crowd and start conversation and build confidence, you will make money. So these gaps all map back to that triangle. And depending on how you do go to market, there's different stages here, right? When you're building ads, this is target an audience, get clicks on ads, fill out your form, go to your do all this. If it's outbound, if it's B2B lead engagement, it's the same pyramid, but different names for the steps. If you're doing content marketing, it is going to be the same steps with different names. Using this pyramid means you always know what you need to optimize no matter how you are marketing. And the one thing I can guarantee you as you are building on this is it's not going to work on your first try. When you build your go-to-market systems, they are not going to function in the beginning. That's why you tackle them one step at a time. Is for each gap, are you hitting a good metric? And for your business, you can find core metrics that make sense. I can definitely share for given industries ones that do and don't. It's not going to work in the beginning. You have to find where you are failing at hardest and improve that area. Once you found the beginnings of how to improve that area, you begin to scale. Seth Godin talks about first 10. If you can find 10 customers who love what you do, not people who happen to be buying your product, 10 customers who love what you do, you can probably find 100 because you begin to look at what those 10 people all have in common. If you can find 100, you can probably find 1,000 and so on and so on. But first you have to find 10. And when you've got those 10, you begin to optimize your business towards folks who love your product, not folks who are just suckers enough to buy it. Beyond go-to-market, you begin to find the next thing. So you built $1 million marketing engine. Congratulations. What do you do now? You find a new niche. You go into a different channel. If you built your $1 million on YouTube, you go over to Meta. Or if you built it on YouTube, you go over to SEO. You find a new identity. Quit selling bottles of water to office workers and sell bottles of water to yoga moms who are concerned that their children are getting lead in their pipes, so that you're poisoning your child and damaging their brain. Or finally, you change your offer. Don't sell office space for rent. Sell parking garages that just happen to be in office spaces. Whatever it is you do, tweak a bit how you do your go-to-market, and you will find the opportunity to build a new $1 million marketing engine. It all comes back down to these three things. If you know your crowd, you are able to start conversation with them and build confidence that you are the answer to their problem. And you can stack the deck in your favor because you get to define the problem that you solve for them. And if it's an important enough problem for the crowd to actually want to buy, then you'll be able to make money. That's all you need to know. That's the easy bit, right? Look, it's so simple. Anyone can do it, right? It's a hard road ahead of you. It's an uphill climb. But with the resources from Founder Institute, with mentors like Chris, with people running FI chapters like Guillermo, with the giant organization and network of all of the alumni and graduates and mentors in this space, you have an infinity of opportunity ahead of you to connect to the right people to make this easier for you. So, special assignment, everyone, which I know makes you all twitch and wince. Figure out in the network who the mentor or graduate or chapter head, whatever is, who can take what you're building to the next level. Just go troll through LinkedIn. We're all connected one way or another, and reach out to them and say, here's where I am, here's what I need to do. Can you help? You'll be surprised how often the answer is yes. Thank you, everybody.
Right. No, thank you, Trevor. And well, it's been a memorable session tonight, and I'm pretty sure that there are plenty of questions. And I don't know if we can spend like top 10 minutes stop to have comments or questions or anything that you want to say from our founders tonight to Trevor and Chris. Carlos. You're mute, Carlos.
Right now? Yeah. Well, thank you so much, both. I'm learning a lot today. I'm really excited about going to market. So I have a question for Trevor. Do you have any recommendation about what kind of, I don't know, landing page or website should I do? Because, so my question is about, in this stage, I need to trying to collect data or trying to sell the idea or the product. I don't know.
So when you build a landing page for your product, you do not build a landing page for a wait list or a hey, coming soon or any of this. You build a landing page for the product, even if it doesn't exist. Because what you're going to do, let me think. I know I have, let me find the darn landing pages.com. Oh man, what's the, oh no, I got to look it up here. Hang on, WP-admin. I want to show you some examples here of pre-product websites. Or, oh, interesting. Apparently the site's not working at the moment, so I can't show it to you. Yeah, okay. I can't show you an example that's live at the moment because I apparently need to update my website. But the idea is you make an actual, so like the Water Nuts, right? My horrible business idea. I actually launched that product 7 years ago when I was doing go-to-market tests. And I wasn't going to sell water bottles, right? But when you saw the landing page and you clicked on the buy now, it would go, oh, hey, the beta's full, right? Give me your email and I'll contact you when there's room to let you in. And what you're measuring is the click rate on the button. How many folks said, hey, I would like to buy. And then, of course,
Perfect.
they can't. That's a whole different thing. But that way you're validating not how many folks want to join your wait list, but how many folks want what you've made.
Perfect. And So the question about that, if I collect that data, should I send some emails telling them, well, no?
No, I mean, just simply because it's going to be so long between when you get the email and when you have a product that they will have forgotten you exist. Like more than
So
3
it's
weeks.
it's just to understand if there's demand on the market.
Yeah. No, I mean, go ahead, send an email if you would like to. The cost is very low, but also my expectations would be very small.
Understand. What if I just have like a few big clients? Is the same process? Should I try to make another kind of validating process?
So when you have a very small addressable market, it gets a little more challenging because you can't use the law of large numbers to understand your appeal by going, look, I've got 10 million people. If I get 6,000 of them and show them one thing, I've still got a lot of people to show another thing before I've gone through my whole audience list. If your TAM is like 20 companies, then your problem is you have to figure out, how do I validate my idea before I go through all 20 companies? And I would recommend you change your approach, but also generally at the like founder institute type of startup that you're building, you really need to have a not B2E sales mechanism in place, because B2E sales are so long that you will probably die for lack of funding before you close one.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Carlos. As a reminder, depending on the availability in the schedule of our mentors, we can schedule office hours, all right? Very important. And there is a question from Moira. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris and Trevor, for tonight's lecture. It was very, very interesting. I have a question related to there are many businesses, mine included, that have the buyer or who the product is for, but who's gonna be actually paying for the product. So when it comes to marketing strategy, I wanted to know, should I talk about who this is gonna be mainly for? Or do I directly talk to the person who's gonna pay for it, or a combination of both?
Well, I think Chris has shared some stories about exactly that. I'd love to hear your
Yeah,
take.
I mean, it truly is a combination for both, right? So like I'm one of these people, like if there's a couple just different classes of stakeholder. I like visiting websites where it says up at the top, like let's say that the company was called Bimbo, Grupo Bimbo Bread Company. At the top, Grupo Bimbo for schools, Grupo Bimbo for parents, Grupo Bimbo for this, where you have the ability to tell unique stories. What you don't want to do is tell one story that applies to everyone, because that's actually confusing, even though it seems like it solves the problem. People like to feel like they're the only person you're talking to. Same thing applies to people that visit your website. I don't know anything about your particular brand, but I'm sure I'll have very specific explanations of how to do this. So fill out that form on my website, I put it in the chat, so then I have some understanding of it, so I can give you some immediate feedback before we even meet. But really what it boils down to is you want to tell a story of solving a problem, right? There's a difference between a problem and a solution and actually solving a problem. So what you want to do is you want to tell it from the lens of solving that problem. This is like the world was like before Moira. Here's how the world's like after me, right? And I'm confident that we can do this right away because you're asking the right question. Most people don't ask that question, and they just come up with some sort of chimera thing that just confuses everyone. And then you have a product that everyone. One of the biggest challenges is when it comes down to customer discovery, you need to ask diverse people. A lot of people stay within their own realm, their comfort zones, and their friends and family. So the feedback they're getting on storytelling has an inherent bias, right? So what we need to do is we need to test some of this with some people. And I'll gladly help you do that. If we have a couple different stories, we'll go to some of those stakeholders, engage their opinion on it, because nothing's better than the opinions of the people that are actually going to take action. you know?
Great. Thank you.
I would also offer here, you can think of some examples of complex sales and onboarding products. A CRM is a perfectly good example of this, right? HubSpot is very rarely purchased by the people who use HubSpot. And what you find is on the homepage, they talk to the transformation of your organization, which generally speaking, your line level sales employee doesn't give a squat about the transformation of the organ, blah, right? But then when the higher up has said, we're moving to HubSpot, then you say, hey, you're the new sales team coming from Company X into HubSpot. Super excited to have you on board. Let me show you how this will increase your total compensation. And now the salesperson goes, oh, what did you say? Right. And it's at a different stage of the journey when you bring that particular topic up. So how you sell is going to influence your main, like your marquee messaging. And then as you bring these, what's the word Chris used, stakeholders into the journey of using your product, you will make messaging just for them.
Great.
And a good point. Let me just bring this up from the cohort member earlier that was talking about having things that are going into the schools, right? So generally, you either have something like the schools paying for this type of program, or you have the parents paying for this type of program. And then there's the expanded stakeholder group where I would go. And that's where you have local nonprofits that somewhere in their messaging, in their mission says that they care about kids having experiential opportunities to learn what's best for careers. Because oftentimes those organizations, those local businesses are looking for some sort of narrative to support that makes them look good when neither of them are the customer. They're just the ones paying the bill. The question is that your customer now, or is that just the payer? And I think oftentimes people confuse that. Just because somebody's paying doesn't mean they're your customer, but that does mean they're one of your stakeholders, which means you need to have a narrative for them. And I recommend all of you to do a lean business canvas. It's a simple tool where it's like a shortened form of the business canvas. And the whole point in there is you identify things like your problem solution, your unique value proposition, your unfair advantage, which is the most important one, but then your stakeholder segments. They call them customer segments. But in that situation, there should be a direct line where there's a problem to a solution to a customer group. So just because somebody's paying that may not be the one using your software in one of my weird initiatives, I promise you're solving a problem for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't cut you the check. Sometimes that is they're just looking for something charitable to do. Sometimes it's because their nephew is in the class. Don't know in this example, but there's always a story to tell, and there's always somebody buying. So we'll talk about it when I learn more about your brand. Fill out that form with as much info so I get a good understanding. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Trevor and Chris. And I guess this is the end of this session. I don't know if any final words from Trevor or Chris to say goodbye right now.
Yeah, just a couple things. Like it's a tough battle, like doing startups, right? But it's a lot like growing up and developing as a human. And there's a couple things I've learned along the way, and some of them I talked about tonight. But in this process, realize you're gonna have a lot of people say no. All right, there's gonna be a lot of people that say you suck. There's gonna be mentors that are giving you conflicting opinions, and then there'll be advisors giving you conflicting opinions. The key thing to this is to never take the victim stance as a startup, right? All of these things are part of the learning curve. I promise you, I knew nothing about startups until I got involved with startups. And then it was just a few years before I was a leader in the industry of it, right? And that's not a testament to me as much as a testament of understanding what I didn't know and not blaming anyone from that. Because not only can you not take the victim stance, you can't blame anyone for anything that goes wrong. You're entrepreneurs here. At the end of the day, you are the ones that are responsible, and you need to take that seriously. I'm not saying any of you are not, but so many people out here blame the investor for the reason why they haven't got investment. The number one reason why you don't get investment is because you haven't presented something that's investable. And there's a difference between receiving investments and being investable. There are plenty of people out there that receive investments that are not investable. You'll hear about them as the failure cases, right? The goal, like I said earlier, is make sure that you're not just focused on getting people to say yes. The key here is making it hard for people to say no. That is the key thing to all this. In your goal in every meeting, I love tonight because one person even asked that they're looking for a technical lead, right? Instead of looking for investment. But the key to all this is getting the next meeting. Think about nothing else but that. Don't think about the hard sell. Don't think about the investment. Don't think about getting them to say yes to anything more than the next meeting. That's the best advice anyone can have, because you can feel that in a human, right? You can feel that in the room as an investor. All right, I appreciate all the time. Trevor, off to you, buddy.
Oh no, I'm closing. I thought you had a great line there. Yeah, I think what Chris says also applies to selling and to your go-to-market, right? It is hard to get a yes. It is way easier to not get a no. And if you make a successful argument that there's no other better choice than going with me, then they'll be like, well, I've got no way to say no, so let's move forward. Really good salespeople can do that, and really good product-led teams can make that how the product works. So validate your messaging, tell a hell of a good story. I'm sure you'll go far. Been super impressed with this cohort's work tonight. Congrats to all of you founders for being, I mean, seriously, I've mentored 70 something cohorts. This has got to be in the top 5 in terms of how well polished you were. Even if Krista and I both, didn't hand out 4s and 5s like candy, it's because we know you guys have it in you to really go far. We want to make sure you do. Best of luck to all you all. I was looking at my calendar because I've had the misfortune of having done 2 events back to back 2 weeks in a row with more than 800 attendees in each. My calendar is blocked for the next 6 weeks. I will try to find some more time to open up to talk to you guys. And I will let Guillermo know when I found some extra hours to get some mentor sessions with y'all.
Thank you, Trevor. Well, it's been a pleasure and an honor. Very inspirational, very technical. I mean, there are no words to describe how thankful we feel with you guys. And well, have a good night, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Oscar, ¿tú querías conversar?
Y por supuesto, Guillermo, ¿cómo va todo? ¿Qué tal?
Bien, bien. Lo que pasa es que debo dejar de grabar aquí.
Ok, vale, perfecto.